Hello and welcome to the Australia Today. With us is Dr. Monica Kennedy, Australia's Trade and Investment Commissioner, focused on education partnership with India. Dr. Monica Kennedy, welcome to the Australia Today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
You have made two fabulous initiative announcements today, but first I would like to ask you, how is the space of education when we talk about India and Australia collaborations?
Yeah, thank you. I think you can sum it up by saying there has never been a better time to be working in education in the relationship between India and Australia. It's an alignment of stars right at the moment where India is itself very focused on the internationalisation of the education experience. This is coming at the same time when Australia is really looking to diversify the ways in which we engage in education around the world. We're building on a great reputation for education experience and quality outcomes. And this is connecting really well with India's really clear expressed desire and ambition to skill up a population that is growing very quickly and with an aspiration for this large number of young people who are hitting the age in which they're seeking careers. And Australia and India are in a great position to work together on meeting those aspirations.
I'm given to understand that you have announced two probably unique initiatives under Australia-India Business Exchange. So can you outline them for us? What are they and how Australian universities and education sector can benefit from that?
Yeah, thank you very much. The opportunity right at the moment has come as part of the really strong interest between our nations that's really seen fruition in the India-Australia ECTA agreement, the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement. And around that negotiation, there's been a number of initiatives that have been announced, and Austrade's looking after a couple of those. The first is the Future Skills Initiative. This is an initiative that's very focused on skilling up, the million or so young Indians that turn 18 every month, and in meeting that aspiration for the demographic dividend that India is so focused on. It will put Australian education providers in contact with businesses and governments in India to see ways in which we can collaborate to meet the really strong need for skilling up in India. So that's the Future Skills Initiative. It'll be a 4-year program of work funded by the Australian government to support India's aspirations in skills. And the second is the Innovation Network. This network is one that will support Australian businesses who are at the stage, they're a little bit beyond startup, they're at ramp-up stage, to help them to learn from and build on the opportunity in India from a base in Bengaluru, to really scale up, work with Indian businesses and within the Indian environment to learn about how innovation can best be explored in collaboration between Indian and Australian businesses.
Right now, when I hear back from Indian academicians and the authorities, they're saying we are trying to get a global workforce ready from India. And is there a way Australia is eyeing on that while India is trying to get the global workforce ready, Australia can be that tool to educate these people? How do we do that?
Yeah, I think what's really clear is that India has enormous capability in the provision of education and skills, and a huge aspiration as well. What Australia can do is assist with the capacity, provide some extra avenues for students to be able to access skills, to work with with Australian and Indian businesses together to identify those areas that are of the greatest demand for skills in India, and to use Australia's experience, particularly in vocational education and training and in skilling, to meet some of those niche areas for development. At the same time, as part of the India-Australia ECTA, there's been some moves forward in recognising the opportunity for Indian students to study in Australia, to develop their skills and employment here in Australia before returning to India. And I think that this too, this flow of students through a cycle of learning, experiencing and bringing experience back to India, is another way in which we'll see young people in India really developing careers that are meaningful in the advancement of India's economy.
I would like you to elaborate a little bit more, because a lot of time people don't understand that the last bit which you just said, that Australia is trying to connect the whole education system to the workforce inability. So they say, all right, it's a great education system, but what are our employability outcomes which they don't understand and sometimes are worried about? So if you could explain that a bit more.
Yeah, I think as Australian universities and other education providers, like those in India, are really focused on employability at the moment. And in Australia, we're particularly interested in those areas of employment that are going to be in greatest demand in the future workforce. So Australian universities and other providers are doing things like having very structured workplace experiences through internships for credit. And then Australia's regulation about post-study work rights has been set in concrete within the Australia-India ECTA. When it comes into force, we'll see that there are locked-in threshold expectations for students to be able to stay in Australia, develop employability skills, and then take those skills around the world. This is something that's available to Indian, or will be available to Indian students. We haven't yet negotiated with any other country that really provides some certainty to students about that experience. During COVID, we also developed a number of online opportunities for students to develop their employability capability. And some of these are through the Digital Education Hub on the Study Australia website, where students can go and join in virtual project teams working on real workplace projects with some very exciting businesses, both based in Australia and in India, work with students from around the world on projects and deliver a real project outcome to the business within just a period of 2 weeks or so. So those kind of employability activities that contribute to a student's CV and demonstrate their ability to work in a real organisation have become very popular and very sophisticated in the skills that they develop. At the same time, we've developed things like employability micro-credentials that are available too through the Study Australia website. But I think you'll find that every education provider in Australia is really focused on making sure that the program that they're delivering has a real outcome, an immediate outcome that has value to a student moving into the workforce post-study.
Monica, one more thing. As a global supply chain is disrupted, same has happened with the education system also. We have a niche product. When we talk about Australian universities or education system, it's kind of one of the best. But when we talk about the funnel, there are in first half of this year, there have been so much disruption. The visa issues are prolonging. And if I talk to the education provider, universities, everyone is saying, we just can't handle this anymore. We are just working on maybe day by day. They are saying we are working hour by hour basis, that this is the outcome we could get by 5 o'clock. So this is it. How do we handle it?
it's an important issue, and it comes with it a great opportunity. So in Australia during COVID, as you'll know, we were very protective of the safety of the people within Australia, and that included our international students. The vast majority of international students from India stayed on Australian soil during COVID, and they've been great ambassadors for us. At the same time, many of the applicants, students who wanted to study in Australia, remained very loyal to us. And so all of those students with the 2-year pent-up demand are really keen to come to Australia, and many more students who saw how we looked after our students and how we cared for them as part of the Australian community, all very keen to come. And this is happening at the same time that, you know, we have a huge Indian diaspora in Australia, a very successful, I might add, Indian diaspora in Australia, who weren't able to visit family in India, and their families weren't able to visit them for nearly 2 years as well. So it's in this perfect storm of people wanting to travel between our nations. I know we're not the only nation in the world where visas are taking a little bit longer to process, but it is really an indication of the strength of the relationship between our countries, and we are working very hard to bring the time for visa application down. But at the same time, I think it reflects the energy that there is in the India-Australia relationship and the opportunity that exists still for students to come and study with us. The great thing about COVID was it really crystallised the opportunity in online education, and Australian providers have switched to a very high quality online provision so that students generally are able to begin their program of study in India while they're waiting to be able to to receive a visa to continue their study in Australia. And that's been a really great way of us being able to stay connected during COVID and during this period of delay. It is something we're very aware of, something that we're working very hard at. And as I say, it's both a difficulty that's frustrating to all of us at the moment, but an indication of a really great positive story about the relationship between our countries and our people.
Dr. Kennedy, lastly, what is your message to the education providers in Australia and India who are looking forward for a kind of collaboration? Maybe they don't know what they want to do, but they are looking forward to these countries. Oh, I want to do something in Australia or India. And this is first part of my question. Second is to the aspirant students who want to have a pie of this cake, who want to just experience this fantastic Australian education experience.
Well, I'll answer your second question first, and that is to say that there has never been a better time to be an Indian student studying in Australia. Everything is coming together to provide fabulous experiences for international students and to provide great qualifications and a great opportunity to stay with us and enter the workforce before taking your qualification globally. So my message to students would be, come and join us. There has never been a better time. To organisations, to businesses in education in Australia and in India, I would again say that there's an alignment of stars right now where the National Education Policy in India is encouraging education institutions to internationalise, is really supporting engagement with institutions around the world. And it's happening at the same time that Australia is looking to India to diversify and build relationships between India and Australia through education. We find that the relationships that are established in the education experience are ones that last a lifetime. And the warmth of the relationship between India and Australia is one that now will provide us with great opportunities to take those relationships into our futures.
Now, Dr. Monica Kennedy, thank you so much for joining with Australia today.
Really lovely to meet you, and thank you for having me. Thanks.
Thank you so much.